Hey, welcome everybody back to the Financial Advisors Workshop. The Financial Advisors Workshop is where we talk to the really high quality practitioners in the financial advisory business. And there are literally hundreds of thousands of financial advisors around the country who toil away working with individual investors and do really, really great work in helping people build their net worth. And we're here to interview them and talk to them about how they've done it and how they work with folks. We have Matt Filik today with us. Matt is an interesting character. He's developed a really great practice and a unique way it developed. Welcome, Matt, to the FourStar Financial Advisor Workshop.
Thanks, Brian. Really excited to be here.
Well, great. Well, we're glad to have you. And you're a CFP. You have a group called Clear Focus Financial in Mountainside, New Jersey. Where's Mountainside?
Mountainside is about 35 minutes just west of New York City. So we get a lot of that New York metro feel, but without all the hustle and bustle of having to be in the middle of the city.
Yeah, it's a nice area in northern New Jersey there. Quite nice. Well, great. Now, you've been a financial advisor for 13 years. You want to tell us how you got started?
Yeah, I think my story is a bit, interesting and certainly a bit different. I was lucky enough to meet a mentor who eventually became my partner named Bill Logue in 2006 when I was in college. So the first person in my family to ever attend college. We really needed some help figuring out how to pay for that. My parents were lucky enough to find a financial planner who worked with a nonprofit that really helped people navigate the college landscape. Worked with him, and in my freshman year, I had to take a class. And at the end of that freshman semester, I had an option. I could either write a paper and read a book, or I was allowed to shadow somebody for a day. And of course, I didn't have to write a whole paper, just a summary paragraph. So being the freshman college student I went with the shorter paper, right? Shadowed a gentleman who, he and I really hit it off, thought similarly, not so much about finances, although we agree there a lot, but about values and helping people and doing the right thing. And interned with him for 3 years and was kind enough to make me an offer to become a partner as he was leaving a large insurance broker dealer to really go out on his own as an independent financial planner. In 2010, I graduated college early, started working with him as a full partner. So I always like to joke, I've never had a job interview before. This is what I've always done. I've never had to go and sit through 6 rounds of interviews. It was pretty exciting for me to get started.
Nice. So, but you interview people now to yourself, so you have to figure out how to do that, right?
It's certainly a skill set, right? To get to know everybody.
Exactly. Well, good. Well, so tell us, once you did begin working with Bill, how that all developed. What was the practice like back then? And let's talk a little bit how it's grown to now. Kind of give us kind of like the timeline discussion.
Yeah, we've always really been focused on being compassionate and caring for our clients above all else, right? All of the finances are incredibly important in investments and planning and insurance and taxation, but being their advocate and doing the next right thing for your clients will always keep them being your advocate, right? We've built our practice on that. We started with a much smaller firm, but we knew we wanted to build it into something bigger to help more people. But we knew we needed infrastructure and a process. So we focused a lot on that backstage planning, how we take clients through a process, how we walk them through the investments, and really how we service them in perpetuity. And as that process got really well built, we found that we can only do so much on our own. And we hired our first employee in 2017. And we really look for people who are not necessarily financial, although it's a plus, but we look for is people who care, who really want to be out there working hard for the people who trust them. And that really skyrocketed our growth in 2017. And in the next 3 years, we brought on another financial planner to join the firm who became a partner in 2019. And in that time period from 17 to 19 into the mid 2020, we actually doubled our AUM and our revenue in that period because having the right people in place allowed us to do more and do it better.
Nice. So you built quite a firm. You're what, 250, something like that now, which is great. And then how do you invest money for clients? Are you the managers? Are you a consulting advisor?
We do a little bit of everything. We do have some in-house portfolios where we do the rep as portfolio manager. We like to follow a pretty particular strategy there where we can use our own industry knowledge, different products, different themes, following maybe some global megatrends or themes that we think are longer term but worth investing in. And then a lot of our business we find to be outsourcing is a really great way to scale and grow, but keep your investors as the primary objective and primary importance. So we work with platforms, particularly like Orion, where we can outsource to lots of great managers, best in class in each of their areas to do what they do best, whether it's clients that need income or dividends or clients that want some sort of options protection in the volatile markets. We really like to give our investors multiple options.
Nice. So what kind of portfolios, the ones you run, what do you do with those? What are those like?
In 2019, we got really into the idea of what BlackRock was building, which were global megatrends that focused on kind of the intersection of the future of where the world would be going, but also matching it up with trends that were sustainable, whether they were economically friendly or government backed. So things like clean energy, self-driving cars and electric vehicles, genomics, immunology. We kind of built a portfolio that is our satellite position, our alpha driver, but to build a nice core to it as well that gives us protection and kind of average index market participation with a few fun tilts. Interesting.
Do you engage in any alternative type investing, or is it mostly?
We do from time to time. It really depends on the client needs. Sometimes alternatives can provide really nice income streams or balance that we just can't get from a market-based investment. But I'd say they're far more secondary. Certainly they have some drawbacks that we'd like to keep an eye on.
Okay, great. So you built this practice. You now have some new employees and a couple of other advisors. And you've talked about how you've done it by succession. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Like how does that work when you bring in advice that you're eventually going to have the practice that is part of your practice? How does the succession work in your firm?
The most primary thing is finding advisors who think and feel similarly about the business and their clients, right? We care deeply about our clients. We always tell them nobody will ever care more that doesn't have your last name than we will. And that means something. So we want to find other advisors who feel similarly and that are looking for somebody to entrust their clients to. Particularly, I'm a younger guy, probably skew far lower in the industry in terms of age than most. And that means that I'm going to be here for another 40 years. So they can entrust that for 40 years, their clients will be in good hands, which will likely eclipse most of their clients' lifespan. But what's really, really important is they're looking for towards the end of their careers or as they want to wind down. I don't want to reinvent myself. Maybe I'm not technologically focused. Maybe I'm not technologically savvy, or maybe I just don't have that infrastructure built to make my practice the most valuable it can be. So how can I team up with people that I like, I want to spend time with, and I appreciate sharing ideas with for maybe the next 3 to 5 years until I phase out? How do I grow my business still in that next 3 to 5 years without investing a ton of time, energy, or capital?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So, and you focus on things other than just numbers. You focus on passion and feeling and the right kind of people.
Absolutely. I think you can go only so far by focusing on numbers, both with our clients and inside of the firm. At the end of the day, it's really about building connections with people and making those connections genuine and lasting that keeps both clients engaged and we have people that work with us every day, and I would never say work for us. They work with us. We're all rowing in the same direction to help people do well for the firm and do well for our clients.
So you're a CFP, and Matt, why a planning approach? There are other approaches. How does this work in building your business and your firm?
We found that just if you look at the industry, there's a lot of pharmacists willing to give out a prescription to fix a problem they haven't diagnosed. What we really want to start with is diagnosing the problem before we tell you how to fix it. So if we increase your return by 1% over what you're doing, it might end with more money, but it doesn't necessarily fix problems that we see. So being a holistic planner really starts with building a financial baseline, testing it just like we would if you went to a doctor and you had a stress test on your heart. How does it look today under no pressure? How does it react to different scenarios, different environments, so that we can safeguard you? Because we tell clients there's only 3 things that can happen to you. You can live a long time, you can die too soon, or you can live a long time but be sick. We want to make sure that your financial plan is successful no matter which of those 3 occur.
Nice. Interesting. Well, good. So how do you do it? Is it quarterly meetings, semi-annual, yearly? What's the state of play and how you operate?
We try not to hold clients to that kind of rigid format where, hey, we need to get together every quarter. We make ourselves open as a part of their ongoing life. And I always tell people, any question that comes up that has money involved, call us. Because it shouldn't be where we have to talk once a year because it's required by fiduciary obligation. We should be an active part. So I have clients that have very little money with us that we talk to quarterly. I have clients with us that have a lot of money that have been around for a long time that when I call them once a year, they say, oh, this again? We have to get together. As much as I love to see you, can we just go out and have a burger instead of coming to the office? And we want to meet people where they're at, because our goal is to make their life easier, not harder.
Nice. Well, great. So your view of working with people extends to the community as well. And let's talk a little bit about your community involvement, how that helps kind of close the circle in what you're doing in the business world.
Certainly, it's part of our financial planning process. And as a CFP, you learn a lot about charitable planning. It can be a great way to use assets to transmit your values, but can also be a great way to save in areas of taxation. And it can be a great way, especially with some new tax laws, to help with longevity of your assets. So that's always been a big part of our practice. And it's really important to do what you say and not just say it. And it's led us to be really involved in the community. We've always done a lot of financial literacy work for YWCAs, community colleges, temples, churches. But I spent a lot of my time outside of the office being involved with the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. It's the largest anti-hunger and anti-poverty organization in New Jersey. And I serve there in multiple capacities, but one of which being chair of the Planned Giving Committee and helping them develop how they can talk to their donors about transmitting values and keeping the food bank solvent for years and years to come.
So you mentioned the word planned giving, and I know we are very involved in philanthropy at FourStar Wealth, but I understand a lot of people are now up on some of the philanthropic terms. What is planned giving? Let's talk about that.
I think planned giving is a word that I often replace with structured giving. How do we put a plan in place that allows us to structure things ahead of time for either when we're no longer able to make those decisions, when we're gone? And a lot of people think, well, if I make a planned gift, that means my kids get less or my heirs get less. And in reality, what we try to help people understand is there's only a few places money can go to people you know, people you love, or the federal government. And while there's enough to go around for a lot of our clients, we want to make sure it goes to the place they feel it's most valued. And really, that's what we think of as planned giving. It's just when you're no longer here to use your assets, or even before that, if you have enough to help others, how can we do that to benefit you, your heirs, and the charity of choice the most?
Nice. Well, good. So what do you see for the future now, Matt, for your company and then your practice?
I think a lot of what goes on, people in the financial advising industry talk about the markets and the economy and how we're going to react to that. And I think we always just look to make the next good decision, both for our clients and our investments, and focusing on what's going on. So I think the path we're on is where we're going to continue to go, because it's been really great for us and our clients, which is to focus on how we can help. What can we do to add value? If that means the financial planning process, if that means working with people's CPAs and estate planning attorneys to make sure that the 3 most important financial people are always talking. So that is, to me, going to be the way forward to continue to grow our firm. And on the advisor side, it's going to be to help the advisors that are in that middle ground between knowing that they need to get some help, get some ideas, maybe even scale their firm, but don't necessarily want to spend the time, the energy, or the capital on it because that window is shorter. So helping people is the answer, whether it's helping clients or helping advisors. The goal is to give them what they want and be a part of the process.
Nice. Well, and you've carved out a position stated here that you're a younger advisor, and there are a lot of old advisors. The average age of advisors is 59 years old in our industry. And so what do you think younger advisors are bringing to this industry, and what kinds of perspectives do you think you have that are different than the traditional 59, 65-year-old advisor?
Yeah, I think over time we all get a little bit cynical, and it's easy to do because the world's not a very pleasant place at times. And I think having a fresh look at things and maybe not knowing some of the bad can be helpful in building out some sort of optimistic plan for our clients. We want to be preventing them from running into that proverbial brick wall or making the big mistake. But at the same time, it's about being optimistic and looking for all the bright spots. So much of that is also adopting technology that can be difficult if you haven't been living in that world. So you have to meet clients where they're at. Zoom, compliant texting, things like that are great ways to interact with clients that maybe if you're 65 years old is not your thing, and that's okay. But I think a lot of the software we work with, whether it's the financial planning software, the risk software, can be cumbersome to navigate. And the biggest thing more than anything is so many clients choose to walk away from their advisors later in life because they're not doing generational planning. One of the things that we have going for us as a group of advisors of all ages, some in that age demographic you spoke about, but someone like myself who's younger, is I'm probably closer to their children's age, which means we're building relationships with them as well. We're having conversations about what's going to happen for mom and dad later in life. We're having conversations about how we can help them. And that generational planning is really, really helpful to the clients.
So, and speaking as far as an advisor who's younger, then also client families where there's younger adult children. How do you communicate with adult children of your wealthy 65, 70-year-old clients? How does that work? You're obviously one of them. So how do you talk to folks in their 30s and 40s with wealthy parents?
I think it's the same as the difficult part of being a young advisor, right? Is that sometimes a 65-year-old wealthy individual doesn't feel like they can relate to a 35-year-old, right? We've gone through different things. We come from different areas. And although that's a disadvantage, I think it's one of the things that makes our meetings so productive, is because learning about each other in conversation is a great way to build that rapport and a great way to understand where they came from and why money means what it does to them. But for the children, it's the relatability, right? They're 35 years old, working crazy hours, raising kids, trying to navigate complex financial decisions. Well, so am I, right? I have a 2-year-old at home that takes up a huge part of my evening, and it's not uncommon to be on the phone with a client of a similar age and hear their child in the background while they hear mine. So anytime we can build a connection where we have things in common, I think it really makes for a better long-term relationship, and it helps when mom and dad need something and they already know who we are. They already know they can trust us. They already know that when things happen, the plan is in place and they understand it.
Very interesting. Well, that's always been a big issue for a lot of advisor teams, and that family continuity is an important part of it. So now, with 13 years experience in the financial advisory industry, you've had lots of conversations. We've gone through good market times and rocky market times. What are you telling folks now? We had a terrible year in 2022. We've had a little bit of a rally here, but it's sloppy and messy. The economy's slowing down. What is your advice for investors at this point about where to place money and how to get along in this investing environment?
We really want to use history as a guide, because although it doesn't always repeat itself, it certainly has some similar characteristics. We kind of want to show them in the good times and the bad times what those outcomes can be, so they're never surprised by a flat market for the next 3 years. They're not surprised by a 20-some-odd% decline in 2022. They understand that these things can happen, and I feel being prepared and matching your expectations to the reality is important. What we're doing now is really helping people understand there's a lot more options than there used to be over the last decade with rates coming up. So that may mean looking more at bonds when in the past we had it. It may mean looking at CDs, fixed annuities, or even a money market as a actual short-term investment solution, where in the past, keeping cash on the sideline was only a detriment. All of those things are now really reliable, solutions that we can bring to our clients and help them navigate as different options compared to just the S&P as your baseline of everything. So where we're looking to go is really at what are the new things that are available. And when I say new, I mean newly reasonable to use, not newly created, but newly reasonable to use.
Nice. Thank you, Matt. You build a big practice in a short period of time. Usually advisors don't get into 200 millions by age 35. So you've obviously done that pretty well. How did you find your biggest client? Is my next question.
The biggest clients tend to not be the people you expect. I will tell you that. Certainly centers of influence are a massive part of connecting with people. If you meet anybody off the streets, obviously hard, but we've been really lucky to have a CPA and an estate planning attorney that not only trust us, but feel very similarly about how people should be treated. And it's allowed us to create a pretty deep bond that they're willing to send us clients that a lot of centers of influence would worry about sending to financial advisors in fear of ruining the relationship for themselves. But I will also tell you that the clients come from the places you wouldn't expect. Helping an average client go through something difficult can often yield results that are not expected, whether it's an inheritance or some sort of unforeseen monetary change, passing of a spouse. Our largest client is somebody who has built to become our largest client through really good advice. He's a saver, he's a worker. And I think that comes over time and through coaching, right? We him from, and I don't want to say an average client because he's an exceptional person, but we took him from an average net worth through really quality planning and cash flow coaching and career coaching to bring him to a point where he is our largest client. And that bond is really important and it's pretty strong.
Very good. Very good. So now that you're 35 and you've got such great success, if you were to counsel folks who are just coming out of undergrad, maybe they're working in grad school, they're thinking of being a financial advisor, what kind of advice would you give them based on what you've been through?
The one must that I've been very lucky in my both personal life and career is to have a mentor. To have somebody that is willing to teach you, somebody who is willing to allow you to fail and show you why that happened and learn from it in all aspects of business, life, and finance is really important because it accelerates things. That is number one. And certainly number two is don't expect it to happen overnight. 13 years is not a long time, but for a very long time, they were 60, 80-hour weeks where if you did my, salary divided by hours worked, I was being paid below minimum wage, right? And that is where you build the processes, the practice, the front stage, the backstage, and the relationships and that expertise. Sitting in front of a financial plan at, 11 o'clock in the evening when there's so many other things you want to do as a 25-year-old, that to me is it. Time is key, and you stack those little wins until they become big. And having a nice bull market on your back is not a terrible thing either.
Exactly. Nice. Well, good. Well, we're coming in at the end of our time here today, Matt, and I just wanted to see, you've given us some great ideas, great messages, great themes. Is there any other concise message that you'd like to send the financial advisor community? About 300 people are going to see this interview in the near term, and then probably 1,000 over the next year. What would you like to tell our brother?
I think always do what's in the client's best interest, and it will reward you in the long term. So many times there's a lot of outside influences that can make our decision making difficult. But if you do the next right thing over and over again for your clients, it will absolutely pay off if you're patient. So never give up, treat your clients well, just like you would your family and your friends, and it'll come to fruition.
It will all work out. Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you, Matt, for being with us today. This has been a very great interview. I think a lot of our younger advisors are going to pick up some really good tips from you. And we look forward to talking to you again, Matt.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today.
Well, that's it for us today, everybody. Thanks for being with us on the Financial Advisors Workshop. For the whole FourStar team, which is now national in 16 states, and our whole corporate team and all our advisors.